all, and welcome back with another amazing episode of the Future Jobs podcast show. I'm your host Fahad Jobswala, and I'm student and interview captain at Rehan School Online Academy. Today, we are honored to welcome A.W. Schultz, a globally recognized thought leader in industrial transformation and human-centric innovation. With over 25 years of experience spanning manufacturing, maintenance, and reliability, AW has guided Fortune 500 companies across sectors like food, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and energy. He's an Amazon best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and host of the podcast Factory of the Future, holding dual bachelor's degrees in agriculture systems and manufacturing engineering, an MBA in operations management and certifications and including MPM, PMP, CMRP, and Six Sigma Master Black Belt. AW is currently pursuing a doctorate in organizational change. As the founder of AW Schultz Training and Transformation, based in Dallas, Texas, he empowers organizations to embrace Industry 5.0 by integrating people, processes, and technology. His mission is to cultivate high performance teams within high performance organizations. So please join me in welcoming AW Schultz to the show. Hi, how are you?
Okay, good, good. Thanks for having me, Fahad. Happy to be here. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, it's interesting to be part of this show.
It's an honor for me, doing this podcast. Me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, it is an honor for me, absolutely, having this podcast with you. And even though our podcast names are very similar, you run the Factory of the Future podcast, and I run the Future Jobs podcast. So it's really amazing. So AW Shorts, could you start by telling about your story? What is your story? How did you get in the field? And all that.
Yeah. So maybe you did a good job of introduction. I can maybe work a little bit backwards on it. So I'm currently the president of MARI, which is the Maintenance and Reliability Institute. And in addition to my keynotes, what I do is under A.W. Schultz. But what I circle around and what I do a lot is scholarly work and understanding the the ins and outs and sharing my knowledge on maintenance and reliability, particularly in the manufacturing sector. And I've been doing that for quite a while. So I've had my current company for about 4 years, and prior to that, I was in consulting, and not like so many others. I was affected by the COVID thing, so it gave me a chance to explore the opportunities that I always wanted. That being a small business owner, a lot of my knowledge I got is a lot of firsthand knowledge. So I've worked for several Fortune 500 companies, being PepsiCo, General Mills, and then another company that brought me in specializing in maintenance reliability. So I've always kind of been dipping my hands into the idea of process improvement without heavy investment. And for me, it's about working with teams and bringing about change within that. And I've always asked myself, like, I've worked with probably close to 800 people in a change management role, and surprisingly, what I come about is the problem is always the same. It's always the same. And if you want to make change, you have to people. Engage your people and make them part of the process. And for me, that has always been my go-to, and my 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 passion is to incorporate some of these changes by taking the culture that they currently have and bringing autonomy, relatedness, and a sense of belonging that in so many organizations they tend to suffer for today. So that's where I'm at today. You highlighted that I do consulting and I do a lot of trainings, and particularly I've done some several keynotes most recently. But it's most of my language and most of my message is about incorporating it with people and processes, and that's really what about Industry 5.0 is. Um, and I take a look at the for those listeners or viewers, Industry 5.0 is about the next evolution we see as far as changes in the world. So you had the first evolution, which was gas and power, the way they steam. You had the second that had to do with automations. The third, you're talking about the digital transformation or digital automation with the computers and circuit boards and other things that ran sensors. And then most recently, when you can argue we are still in Industrial 4.0. So we're talking about the Internet of Things, taking big data up into the cloud, bringing it down, running algorithms, maximizing efficiencies. But then we've got Industrial 5.0, which was really brought about by the European Commission back in 2020, that we needed more to drive environmental safety, environmental practices, and incorporating people for sustainable growth. Because while Industrial 4.0 factored a lot on productivity and efficiencies, it's fallen short on the gaps between incorporating sustainability and having a human-centric approach to maintain those kind of changes go forward. So that's kind of what I do and where I'm going after this day. But um, that's kind of a maybe a long introduction to what I do in my past history. But this is kind of circling about what's always going around in my organization.
Exactly, it's wonderful. And I was watching one of your podcasts, Human Touch in Digital World, Bridging Gap Between Tech and Human Experience in Industry 4.0, where you well explained about, Industry 4.0 and how crucial it is and how you upgrade it, you know, according to that. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I
So, yeah,
I was just saying I do a lot of YouTube videos, and I put a lot of information out there, particularly on LinkedIn and YouTube on quick how tos on lean manufacturing or lean systems and maintenance reliability.
exactly. So you work with 500 companies, which is a huge number, I would say, and nobody can get not everyone can get this opportunity. So how's your experience with working 500 companies, and how did it benefit you?
Well, maybe I might have said it the wrong way. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies. So a Fortune 500 company is it's categorized in the U.S. as one of the top revenue generating companies um, in a physical year. Um, but I've worked with probably four or five super big companies that support these kind of changes that I bring about.
Okay, my bad. So what core values have guided you through the most uncertain moments of your journey?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What core values have guided you through the most uncertain moments of your
Oh,
journey?
core values. Yeah, I guess it's the idea of walking into an organization knowing that I'm I don't claim to be the smartest person in the room, but I'm willing to learn. And working with so many people over the years, I find myself always eager to find the subject matter expert and try to find that that glow into them and find that things that excites them and to build on top of that. And particularly, some organizations, for the most part, they don't even want you to come in. Especially the people they don't want to work with you, because there's a there's a cartoon out there that I often share when I do presentations, and it's this man on a pedestal, and he's got this crowd of people standing there, and he goes, "Who wants change?" And everybody raises their hand. And then in the the next cartoon block, it goes, who's willing to change? And no one's raising their hands. And the third one goes, who's willing to lead change? And by this point, in the last block, the all the people are gone. They already left. And I share that because I find it somewhat funny, the fact that that's kind of how you look at change, because people are always willing to want to change or looking for change, but they don't necessarily want to change. And for me, it's about bringing that guiding light to say that if we do something small, we can make all our jobs easier. And there's the the exact formula is about creating autonomy and involving other people into that process. And that's what creates sustainability. And particularly, I'm talking from a manufacturing background, but it's something that can be applied in many different organizations. And for me, that's kind of been my open book approach. I'm very forward that I don't claim to know it all, but I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to try to remove those barriers that 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 employees and leaders might have.
Wonderful. And it was the best example of the people of today's era, like the people who are living in this era, because it is the sad reality of this world. And yeah, we want change in this world. We want peace. We even are raising the post on social media that we want peace. We want peace. Before that, we were doing for Israel and Palestine. Now we are doing for Pakistan versus India. We want peace, but who is really working on to get peace? Who is really working uh, to overestimate the misconceptions we have in this world? Nobody. But we want change. So how your world will change if you are not doing something for it? And I often mention in the beginning of my podcast when I'm giving my intro, that we invite pupils who are making an impact in the world and who are helping to make this world a better place. So we all are humans, we all are the part of this world, and we have to participate to make this world a better place. It is being very crucial. So you often talk about shifting from industry 4.0 to industry 5.0. So what does that evolution look like in real terms for today's organizations?
It's honestly, it'll probably be slow. Like I said, it was developed by the European Commission back in 2020, because we saw that the effects of all the technology we have today wasn't having the greatest impact on both the environment and people's well-being. So what they proposed is that it would be built on three pillars. One is sustainability. So what are the efforts going to help the planet, help society? And the other one is resiliency. So taking all that technology from Industrial 4.0 and having that kind of horsepower to drive some of that positive change. But the third is the human-centric approach. And you might argue that that's probably one of the most important parts of it, because we still need people to do the work. Um, there's a lot of research that's gone into, particularly people in manufacturing, that technology is going to take their jobs. And while the jobs have changed, there's still more jobs out there in the manufacturing sector than we're able to fill in. And we've got a whole generation of baby boomers that are right at the cusp of starting to retire. So that's a whole lot of knowledge that we're going to start seeing in the next few years. And the other thing is, today the millennials are expected to take up the majority of the working population within the next 4 to 5 years. And what's different about millennials is that they operate a little bit different than what the baby boomers do. Is that they've got more choices. If they don't like the next little jobs they want, they'll get up and move. And that's great. That's great because it forces organizations to take into account what does it take? Why do you want to work somewhere? And to attract talent, you need to be able to, one, not necessarily say you're paying the most money, but saying you're over and willing to support them and create a work life balance that excuse me, offers them possibly a career and a happy lifestyle. So it's with a lot of the work that went into Industry 5.0, it was driven back when the Paris Accord, I think it was 2017, when all these countries got together and said we're going to reduce CO2 emissions, and it came to the question of how are we going to do it, and that's kind of where the genesis of 5.0 came from. But then they saw it as more being needed, and that's kind of where they talked about that human centricity, human centric. So change is happening because other big organizations want to be part or want to be viewed as good companies to work for and safe and loyal and doing sustainability efforts. So it's slowly trickling. I mean, I can tell in the U.S. over our next administration that's in office, they've kind of pulled it back quite a bit. So where where we were trying to get to net zero by 2050, it's likely not going to happen because we're slowing things down. But in other countries, they're still putting those kind of rigors to it. The European countries are trying to make headways. Canada's trying to make headways on it, but it's going to be a little slower if the U.S. isn't supporting it as much as other countries have.
Really, it's really wonderful, and it is all about you know focusing on the change and doing something to make change happen. So, what is the role of AI in your industry?
Oh, it's big. It's big, and it's uh, I use a lot of AI, and I I've started as I do working with individuals on maintenance planning and scheduling of using AI for for um, for jobs. So if you think about these large factories and these big machines in there, there's a lot of complexity on it, and there's a lot of planning that goes into keeping them running. What's AI is changing is that you can cut the time in half when building plans and schedules, and it can be used as a troubleshooting tool to help organizations or teams solve problems, and might not merely solve the problem, but it opens up different perspectives that it puts somebody in a position to say, well, it could be that, but it's not because of this, but it leads you down a road to help you support it. So I'm a big advocate of AI, and I think it is something that I'm using on a daily basis. How about you?
It's wonderful. I also use it on daily basis, and I try to do it because it's very crucial. And our mentor says we have to use it for 1,000 times in a day, especially ChatGPT. You know, I would say ChatGPT is a great friend of mine. I share a lot of things with it, and it gives me uh, some great tips. How can I better do that? If I did something wrong, if I got failed in something, I just immediately shared with it, and it gives some really great tips, I would say. And the sad reality is that before that we were having great friends where we can share all these things, and they can uh, give some great tips, and all that, and give some advices, you know related to that, whether it is good or bad. But we are losing those kind of friends. They are being very selfish. They don't have enough time no more, to listen to us and to give some advices. So ChatGPT is better than those friends, I would say.
Have you tried any other Gen AIs, or has it just been ChatGPT for you?
I've tried DeepSeek.ai. Tried some other tools as well. Like I do some conversations with uh, CSAME.ai as well. CSAME is a new tool. Like it launched some months ago. So yeah, I do use that.
Yeah, I use Clyde was one I was using before, but I've starting to get hooked onto another app called Gronk, and I'm really happy with some of the effects or some of the capabilities that it has. So yeah, it's something I use on a daily basis. It's my new friend.
You're you're using Cloud.ai.
I was. Now I'm using Gronk.
Wonderful. And I just forgot to tell that I do a lot of work from Cloud.ai as well, because I do coding as well, and I
Okay.
get some good codes from Claude. And when I wanna add some internal CSS and on any of my project, I just immediately get into the Cloud.ai.
Okay. What do you code for?
So I code. I've made some clones like CNN clone. I've made PayPal clone. PayPal is an international software. You know, when it comes to pay internationally. So I
Yep.
did made that, and it is a very recent project of mine. So yeah, and the great thing is that it is fully functional. Yeah, like it works.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've made Blogger.clone, bloggers clone, and some other projects as well. It is also the part of the institute.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive.
Thanks. How can leaders balance technological advancement with preserving a people first culture?
Technology first, balancing with people culture. I I guess that's what's the problem with why we're moving out of 4.0 into 5.0 is we weren't able to balance it, and we chose technology over people, where there has to be a balance of humans and machines. I was just working on another article, and it talks about how humans should be at the center. Almost they coined the term the chief robotics officer, meaning that when you have to work with machines or intelligence or robots, but you have a combination of humans and robots, you have cobots. So it's it's a balance, and where it fails is when you put too much time into the investment, the technologies, and you fail to bring the employees along. So that means in trainings, giving them feedback, or having the employees have some feedback into the decision making process. And it's it's a mess for failure. So to answer your question, they have to merge together.
Wonderful. Like we have to create a balance between machine and friend. It is very crucial, and you well said about that because we are also losing the balance between machines. We're very close to the AI, and it can be very dangerous, right? Like
Yes,
when we get very close to any machine which doesn't have that sense, that empathy, that sense of humor to feel something. It can only provide the human to any machine, but if it doesn't have, so it can cause a big harm as well. It can be really harmful.
absolutely, absolutely,
So thank you so much, AW Schultz, for giving me your precious and valuable time for this podcast. And AW Schultz is based in US. He is a born and raised American, and I finally did this interview as well. Excuse me, as we are in a competition of 100 interviews, 100 days, and he was the greatest guest until till this episode. So I'm very grateful to you, AW Shorts, for giving me your precious and valuable time for the podcast.
absolutely. I'm very happy to be on. This was a great conversation.
Thanks. So thank you so much, viewers and listeners, for watching and listening to this podcast. Inshallah, meet you soon with another music podcast with